Hello, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 148, and I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fiber Nymph on Ravelry, Plurk, and Instagram. So today is Wednesday, January 14th. We are halfway through January already almost. How did that happen? That's crazy talk. But here we are. So all I can say is with every day that passes in January, that's one day closer to spring. When I was deluding myself the other day as I was outside with the dog. I'm like, winter's almost over. Winter's almost over. It's not, but if I say it enough, I might at least kind of believe it or have hope for it. Let me say hello to some people who introduced themselves on the 90% Knitting board this past week. We had Beth from Montana, Sarah, who is actually from Pittsburgh. Hello, Sarah. She is a wonderful designer. Let me think. I meant to write down her Rav name so that you would know, so you could look at her designs, because she's got some really cool designs out. Sarah is, I want to say PA Knitwit, but hang on. Yeah, PA Knitwit. So that's Sarah. Check out her designs. Michelle, who is from the UK, and Elaine, who is from South Africa. So welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. Let me get my notes back up here. I'm going to try to expedite this episode because I have a lot to talk about, and it'll be a little longer this week because there is some shop news or shop update that I'm going to be previewing things for at the very end. So let's get a move on. There has been a ton of knitting this week. I'm actually kind of surprised at how much I managed to accomplish this week. So let's start first with some finished objects. The first ones are my scrappy socks. These were my Christmas Eve cast-on socks. So here they are in their full stripy, scrappy glory. I actually had them on the day I finished them, and so they're a little stretched out, which is why I didn't bother trying to put them on sock blockers, because I know they wouldn't fit right. But let me just tell you what I did, because I really did not add too much more to them than what you saw last week. This one, I had been up to here, this green, black, red, that was one yarn. So all I did was add this last bit, which was the ribbing. And this is the rainbow bit out of Nyan Cat. I did not use any of the pink. Oh, excuse me, I'm going to cough or something. I just got a tickle in the back of my throat. Anyway, none of the pink, but it's definitely all the rainbowy stuff. And Babette just came in here and found something on my floor that she's going to play with now. So anyway, Nyan Cat made it in. And then the heel is, it's some commercial stripy yarn. I can't remember what. But I have a pair of socks out of this yarn. I think I started these socks when I was doing a yarn or a sock knitting class one time. That may have been those socks. I don't quite remember. Anyway, so that's the one. And then this one you saw up to this pink and brown inversible stripe. This next yarn here was some Nama Nama yarn. If you remember Nama Nama, I don't think she dyes anymore. But I made a pair of socks out of this, and it was so pretty. I think it was Blackberry Jam was maybe the colorway, but it was one of her bases that did not have nylon in it. I knit it at a rather loose gauge. That was probably back when I was still knitting my socks on US 2s, which I used Addie's back in that day, so it was actually 2.5 because Addie 2s are really 3mm needles, I think. If I am correct. Yeah, 3mm needles. And they call them US 2s, but they're not. It's actually like a 2.5. So it was a really open gauge. And I wore holes in those socks super fast. I was heartbroken because I loved them and they loved the yarn. But at least I have a little bit of it here in my scrappy sock. And then this last bit up here, I actually think it may be from the same skein that this stripe came out of now that I'm thinking about it. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it was something that I made Christopher a pair of socks out of either way. So, and then the heel on this sock, this black and blue heel, it's funny, my heel is black and blue. This was, I think, the very first pair of socks I ever knit for Christopher. It was this yarn. So, and matter of fact, I just found one of those socks down in his old bedroom. I'm not sure where it was, but I know it's sitting on top of the chest of drawers down there right now. It's all I've patched it because he wore holes in them, and he's really hard on socks. And I mean, this was a you know, a heavy duty, heavy wearing commercial sock yarn that had a lot of nylon in it and everything. And he still managed to put holes in it. And I darned them, and they're all felted and everything. He's worn them so much. And there's only one. I don't know where the other one is. So anyway, but those are my scrappy socks. I'm really happy with them. They're so much fun. They ended up being about 8 inches long, which is a good 1 to 2 inches. Well, no, more than that. Most of my sock cuffs are usually 5 to 6 inches high. So 8 inches is really, really tall for socks for me. I didn't want to do calf increases. I got lazy. Actually, it's funny because this one, I told you, this green, black, and red yarn was actually a sport weight, or a heavy fingering, really heavy fingering weight. So this actually did get wider at the top anyway. And then I just didn't increase stitches. This one, I actually did increase stitches, 2 on each side in this blue, the Numma Numma stripe. And then I decided I wasn't going any higher, so they just have 4 extra stitches on them compared to the other one, but they're both the same size. So they fit, they're wonderful, they're done. I love them. I love the idea of the Christmas Eve cast on from Little Bob and Knits, and it's a finished project for 2015. So I have 2 more finished objects for you, and they're things that you've never even seen on the needles because I started them and finished them all in the last week. The first one is a hat. I'm calling it my spontaneous hat because I was going through my bins, and this bin right here has some of my 3 Irish Girls yarn in it, and there's a couple of partial skeins in there that I've used for other projects, but I didn't want to just get rid of what was left over. This was actually like a half a skein of 3 Irish Girls Alenia, her Alenia base, which is an alpaca merino base. I knit Emma a shrug out of this several years ago, and it took 1.5 skeins of yarn, so this is the remaining half. I pulled it out and I decided I'd just make a hat. I've been wearing my hats a lot this winter. I don't usually wear hats a lot, but this year I am because I'm cold. And I've come to embrace the bigger, this is not a slouchy hat, but here, I'll put it on for you, even though it's going to mess up my hair. But it's just, it doesn't, you know, squish to my head. And I like hats that don't squish to my head. So anyway, it's the Aiden colorway. I don't know if they still currently dye that or not, but that's what that is. The only thing I did, it's just sort of my own thing. I don't usually follow patterns for plain vanilla hats. I cast on 80 stitches. I did the ribbing. It was US 8s the whole way through, and then when I got up to the stockinette section, I increased by 10 stitches, so I knit the rest of it on 90 stitches until I started doing the decreases. And I only ended up with like a few yards left at the end, so I pretty much have used up all of this yarn. I love being able to use up leftover partial skeins of yarn that are in my stash, so this is now no longer in my stash. So there's that. And then the other night I decided I just wanted to knit on something simple. I was kind of in a funky mood that night, and I was sitting in my living room pretty much in the dark. I still have my little tiny tree and the stuff on top of my entertainment center with the twinkle lights. It's still up. Those were on, and I was watching a podcast, and I think that was kind of the only light I had going. So I really wanted to knit on something simple. And so I came in here and looked at my stash, and I decided to knit another one of these vanilla bean-esque cowls like I made for a couple of Christmas gifts. So I did another one in the horizontal pattern. And this is the Bahamian color out of my mega base. This is the bulky base. It has not been blocked yet. You can tell the ends are kind of curling up, the ribbed ends. But it was really pretty simple. I cast the stitches on. I am gonna write this up. It'll just be a free pattern because it's not my own original idea by any stretch of the imagination. And I had my phone handy so that I could check and see how close I was to like color changes, so I knew when to start doing the slip stitch row. But I pretty much sat in the dark that night and knit through the first 3 colors, and it was just very relaxing. So this is again my mega base. my big bulky base in the Bahamian colorway. I will have more of this in the shop, not this week, but possibly next update. So you can be looking for that. I really do love these cowls though, and this is big enough that it'll be able to double. So fun. Those are all my finished objects. I did work more on my works in progress. I made some decent progress on this ankle sock, and I swear I really would love to get this finished in the coming week because these have been on the needles since October. They're ankle socks. They shouldn't be taking this long. But this is my progress. Last week when you saw it, or the last time you saw it, it was still on the heel flap. So I finished the heel flap, I did the heel turn, and now I've picked up the stitches and I'm doing the gusset decreases. And I think I have like maybe 1 or 2 more decrease rounds to do for the gusset, and then I'll be done and I can just knit the rest of the sock, which always goes pretty quickly, and it'll be finished. So hopefully next week you'll see it as a finished object, unless it's finished and I've already gifted it to the person that is getting them. So in that case, you'll see a picture of them. But this is the Showstopper base from Leading Men Fiber Arts in the Sucker Punch colorway, US 1.5s, which is my standard needle size for socks. So, and that is the second sock. So progress on that. Stuff sticking to me. I also worked on the Another Door Opens shawl. I didn't get all that much more done on it. I was at the 15% mark in the pattern last week. I'm up to about the 20%. I think I have maybe 2 more rows to go, and then I'll be at the 20% done mark. So it pretty much looks the same, just maybe a little bit bigger. I'm still enjoying it. It's a very nice, simple, easy to remember pattern. Love how it's working up. The yarn is great. The pattern, again, is Another Door Opens by Sarah Bauer. And I am using 3 Irish Girls Adorned sock in the You Are My Sunshine colorway for that on US 6s. So my goal for this is to have this like at the 50% mark by the end of the month. I would like to at least be half done with it. So that's what I'm working on. Then I did cast on one more thing. I was going to cast on 2 more things. I'm like this close to casting on a sockhead hat. You have no idea how tempted I am. I have the yarn wound and everything, but I'm just not doing it yet. So stay tuned. Maybe by next week I will. If I get a couple of things off the needles, I might. Which, the only thing that'll be off the needles by next week would be those ankle socks. I don't know what I'm thinking. That I could get something else off the needles. That would be silly. Anyway, I decided that since it is so wintry and gloomy and cold, I need some bright colored something going on. I mean, these were nice and bright and fun. I needed something else nice and bright and fun. And I really need to replenish my sock drawer because my sock drawer there's more and more pairs getting holes in them because I wear them a lot. And I've had a lot of them for a while. So I decided to cast on another pair of socks for myself. And this is the, I'm sorry this is printed out super tiny, the Atlantic Current socks by Melissa Tuttle Sibley. I did the Rip Current mitts for Christmas, if you remember. And this is a really similar variation. It's a variation on that. Similar slip stitch pattern, but this is the yarn I picked out of my stash. Isn't this awesome? It is so bright and happy, and I love it to death. This is some Unwind Yarn Company yarn. Do I have the tag here somewhere? Hang on. Here it is. It's Dana's Journey sock base, which is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon blend in the Feria de Valencia colorway. So there's her ball band. You've heard me talk about her before. I love her yarns. She's one of my ones that I love buying, and I have a bunch of it probably up here in this bin. That's my Unwind and Leading Men Fiber Arts. I've got a bunch of that in there. Some Crafty Girl, another Crafty Girl yarn. Anyway, Babette, what are you doing under there? Please don't do that. I don't know what you're doing, but stop, because it sounds like you're destroying something. Sorry. I have the door open today. I don't know, just to kind of let heat circulate, but it's also letting cat circulate. So anyway, this was a club colorway when she and Ponky from Another Crafty Girl, they did their Two Crafty Girls, I think it was called the 2CG Club is what it says on here, from April of 2013. So this has been in my stash for a while. And I believe the inspiration for this colorway was a painting. And it may have been called Feria de Valencia. I don't really know. I don't remember. There was a postcard that maybe came with it. So I'm sorry for not being able to tell you more exactly. Regardless, it's pretty. It's so, so pretty. And here is the start of the sock. Obviously, I'm not that far. I just cast them on yesterday and didn't have a ton of time to work on it, but I have the ribbing done and I've just started the slip stitch part. I love how slip stitch motifs look on really variegated yarns. I think it's so pretty. It really shows them off well, so I can't wait to see how these knit up. And I have this in my, that's a good looking hoe bag, which I completely forgot I even had. I have this basket next to my chair out in the living room that for months now has been stacked up with a lot of spinning stuff and just a lot of random bags that were in there. I didn't even know what was in there. So I went through it the other day and cleaned it out, emptied out bags, found some needle sets. So I've regained some needles. And this was at the very bottom. And I think I may have gotten it in the mail. And then I don't think I ever actually got to use it. So I'm using it now. Yay. So that's all my knitting. But wait, there's more because I did some spinning this week too. I did the second half of the fiber that had been on my Traveler. And here it is. This was my Winter Whimsy colorway that I dyed up for the Spin Challenge Club last year. And this was Falkland. I spun the first half of this at SSK this year. And then I never touched it again. So I did the second half. The only problem was I couldn't remember how I was spinning it. Like if I was going to be doing fractal spinning or what. So I just, usually if I spin a wildly variegated fiber, which this was, I usually fractal spin it. So I knew it was likely that's what I was doing. And when I fractal spin, I usually spin the first half of it just straight. I don't separate out the fiber. I just use half of the fiber and I spin it straight off the fiber that way. And then I usually take the second half of the fiber and divide it up into 3 or 4 strips and spin them end to end, which breaks up the color. This one I couldn't really remember, so just to be on the safe side, the second half that I spun, I divided it in half and spun it that way. The colors were way, way brighter before they were plied together. Obviously, that seems to always be the way. Once you ply, things tend to get toned down a little bit, but it's still fun. It's a 2-ply. The second half, I realized I did not spin nearly as thin as I spun the first half, so I had a lot left over, so I ended up doing a 3-ply, a Navajo ply with the last bit, which I got about 40 yards of a Navajo ply. I have about 178 yards of a 2-ply. So I don't know what this will become. It'll probably end up being a square for my hand-spun Afghan at some point. But at least it's off the wheel, and I got to spin on my wheel again for the first time in eons. And in that same basket with all my spinning stuff, because I had a tote bag full of stuff that I had taken with me for spinning at SSK, was this, and I'm not sure if I ever showed it to you or not, because I believe I spun this at SSK as well, and this was my Coffee at Luke's fiber from, this was from a Trifecta of Awesome Club shipment, and this is also Falkland, and I really love this yarn. It's so pretty. I don't remember yardage. I'll have to figure that out at some point in time, and it's obviously never been soaked and thwacked, so that still has to happen. But anyway, the wheel is back in action, at least that wheel. I'm not sure what to spin next. I'm not sure whether to start up the other project that I had been doing before SSK, which, if you remember, you may remember, I didn't bring it in to show you because I'm not sure if I'm going to work on it right now, but I had started a bullseye bump from Loop that I was going to spin that one, and then I had a second one with complementary colors that I was going to spin, and I was going to apply the two together. I may go back to that. The only problem is, in order to apply them both together, I'm going to have to buy a third jumbo bobbin because I only have two, and I'll have to spin each of those on one of them. So I'll need to invest in another bobbin. Or I may go back to my plan that I had last year of spinning up some of my own fiber, because I have so much fiber of mine that I've dyed, and I hardly ever spin my own fiber. So that's why I started spinning those. But we'll see. I don't know. Stay tuned. See what I do next week. Hopefully I'll have time to spin this coming week. Anyway, that is what I did this week. I can't believe I got that much done, and I worked. So it was a good week. Let's see, what else? Just to let you know, the December cow, the giving cow that I pulled the drawing winners last week, I heard from both of the yarn winners, and I have not shipped the yarn out yet, but I will be shipping it out by the end of this week to you guys, so stay tuned, it'll be coming. I have not yet heard from the person who won the $20 worth of patterns on Ravelry. So if that was you, and do I have my notes here telling me who that was? Oh, it was an Amanda. Amanda's giving away the patterns, Grable. But Anonymous 76, if that's you, you were the winner of the $20 worth of Ravelry patterns. And that can be one pattern collection that's worth like up to $20, or it can be multiple other patterns. I checked with the person donating these, up to $20. So please PM me so I can connect you with the person who's donating that prize. The new drawing is up. I told you last week that I was going to do a drawing for a copy of this pattern, the Sheep Heid hat by Kate Davies, and I will also send the winner enough yarn to do this pattern, because I have the whole kit and it came with way more yarn than I need to do just one hat. So that will be... It's just a random drawing I'm doing for fun because it's in anticipation of the stranded knitting knit-along that Melissa from the Meltran Designs podcast and I are going to be co-hosting through February and March. So I'm going to leave the drawing up one more week. It was going to be a 2-week drawing to begin with. So that's up now. If you want to enter it, you still have one more week, and I'll draw the winner next week. And as long as you hear your name and get back to me, I'll be able to ship that out to you and gift you the pattern well in advance of the knit-along if you want to do it for the knit-along. Otherwise, you'll just get it and you can do it whenever. But if you want to do it for the knit-along, that would be fun. That's what I'm going to do for the knit-along. That's definitely what I'm going to do. I may end up doing another project as well if I get that finished, but that's my definite stranded knitting project for that cow. I can't even talk. K-A-L. Okay. Oh, crud. Hang on. I need to go grab something. Over here. Coming back. Flinging things. Okay. New things. I've forgotten to show this to you a couple of weeks now because I ordered this back over the holidays, I believe. And it came and I've completely forgotten about it. This is another loop bullseye bump. Now, if you look in this cubby right here, you see all those loop tags? Yeah, those are all bullseye bumps. It's not like I need more. Plus, there's the 2 out in my basket that I'm potentially spinning right now. But I don't have any of hers that have the shorter color repeats. And I don't know if you can see this. I don't want to open it up completely. Oh, there, I can stretch it. I don't know how much, well, you'll be able to see this. But do you see how close the color repeats are in this? Hers are usually much more farther apart, and there are no repeats of colors. This, they're smaller amounts of fiber, and they also repeat at places. I don't know that they repeat in a specific order, but the same colors are in there. I'm pretty sure they're the same colors. They look like the same colors, some of them. So I didn't have one of these, and I thought it would be really cool to spin one for a shawl or something. And this is the Floating Petals colorway. I don't think she repeats any of her colorways that I know of, or at least not her regular ones that she puts in the shop. And this has Merino, Bamboo, Tussis Silk, and Angelina. I'm not really, oh yeah, I guess there is some Angelina. It's not a heavily sparkly yarn or fiber. 4.4 ounces, so that will be a future spin, and I love the colors. They're so yummy. Okay. Sorry, I've just been remiss in showing that to you for quite a while. I'm really not buying a whole lot. I think there's one more thing coming. I've been really tempted to just buy a bunch of things lately because I keep seeing awesome stuff show up on Instagram or on Plurk or Facebook, or things for updates that different indie dyers or sewers are doing. And I go to their sites and I click things and put them in the cart, and then I've really been good about saying, I can't do this. So I take them out of the cart and I leave the site, and okay. But there is, I know there's one skein of yarn on its way, and it's coming from a dyer that I've never had anything from before. I hadn't actually even heard of them before until I saw some of their stuff on Instagram one day. So that's coming. But other than that, I think maybe that's it. And that's going to be it for a while. I need to behave because I don't have a huge budget for this kind of stuff right at the moment. And I have other things, bigger things in my life that I'm saving for. So yeah, I need to behave with the spontaneous purchases. Just need to be a little more controlled. I wanted to talk a little bit more about goals. We're going to do goals revisited real briefly here, because when I talked about them, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, I'd thought about them, but I didn't have anything concrete in mind. And that's because as I said, I'm still feeling kind of scattered in life. And the thought of sitting here and trying to decide goals for my whole 2015 year feels daunting to me. So it came to me last week, actually on January 9th, because that's the date I have on this piece of paper. So that was Friday last Friday, that, I don't really need to plan for the entire year. But it's kind of nice to have at least shorter term goals. So I decided to make like a January to-do list. That's basically what I'm calling it. It's my January to-do list. And I have like general life stuff, and then I have fibery related life stuff. And then I have a little area down here at the bottom, this little box, which is labeled vague because it's just sort of a vague, I'm going to think about this. So I've actually managed to cross off 3 of the 8 things that I wrote down as being fiber related, which that was finishing the scrappy socks, finishing the hat, because I had cast it on by that point, and finishing the fiber that was on my sidekick from SSK, which was the Winter Whimsy. So those 3 things have been done. The other things that I definitely want to finish in January are I want to finish the ankle socks, which hopefully those will get done this coming week. I want to get my traveler working, the other wheel. I need to get that band fixed and tight and working well so I can use that as well. I want to get, like I already said, I want to get to the halfway point in the Another Door Opens shawl. I want to start a sweater. That one's an iffy one. I'm not sure if I'll do that or not. I really do want to knit another sweater, and it would be nice to get one started, but I seem to be in small accessory mode and sock mode right now, so we'll see. And I need to wind off the yarn for the giveaway, the hat giveaway. So that will definitely get done because I need to give it away. So those are my fibery related goals. My regular life goals, I don't know how interesting those will be to you. I need to get my tax stuff together and get that done as soon as possible because Emma needs to file her FAFSA for the coming year. I'm still working on reorganizing my bedroom closet and drawers and bookshelves and everything. That's sort of an ongoing process. I'd like to get that done and get the last of the cleaning out and stuff that I can donate out of the bedroom just so that that's all done. I want to finish my storage cabinet underneath my basement steps. I have not worked on it anymore because it's been too cold. I haven't been able to cut the plywood I need to, because I have to do that out on my back porch, and it's just been too cold and wet to do that. So I'm hoping this weekend I might get to do that because it's actually supposed to go up into the 40s. That would be lovely. Oh, I need to paint the extra shelf that goes in my entertainment center. We took it out a long time ago because there wasn't room for it because of how we had things stacked, but now that's out of there. A lot of that stuff's out of there, and I have space, so I'd like to have the extra shelf in there so that I have more room for like DVDs and things. Only I painted my entertainment center since then, since I took the shelf out many years ago. So the one shelf is still a natural color, and the rest of the entertainment center is like this kind of burgundy red. So yeah, I need to paint that. The only thing is I need to get paint because I don't have the paint, the original paint anymore, and I'm having trouble finding paint that matches it. So I just need to find a close enough paint that I'm going to end up having to paint the whole entertainment center eventually. That probably will not happen until spring, but I need to find a color at least close enough to the original that the shelf is not going to look funny in there. Even though it's in there and it's behind closed doors most of the time, it'll bug me if it's not close. That's one thing. What else? I need to still clean and organize my office. That's like an always thing. I just seem to never have the time to do it. And I need to take my tiny tree down. I look at it every day and it's like, but I like you, you know? So I don't know. It'll come down eventually. My vague goal or my to-do item is to start researching how to build I don't even know how to explain this. My front yard, if you've ever seen pictures, it's flat, but then there's a bank going up to the road. And then the bank kind of curves around. So it's partly bank and then it comes down level with the driveway. Well, in that area next to the driveway, from the top of the road where the little paved parking spot is, down to my sidewalk, I want to build steps. I want to put steps in because coming down my driveway in the winter is treacherous and horrible. And oh, that was something else I did this week. We're kind of morphing into 10% now, just in case you're wondering. I got the plow on my tractor. I spent all Monday afternoon being very, very frustrated. It was a long, involved process because when you buy old farm equipment, or equipment, it's not like I have a farm, but it's a bigger tractor than a garden tractor, smaller tractor than like a big farm tractor. But it came with a plow and a mower deck. The mower deck was on it. Then tractor went bye-bye to the engine repair place for most of the second half of summer and into fall. Well, the end of summer, all of fall almost. By the time it came back, it was past mowing season, but it was starting to be cold and miserable and just never got the mower deck off and the plow on. So that was my goal Monday afternoon. I thought, how hard can this be? And actually getting the mower deck off was not that difficult. I got that off fairly quickly by myself, yanked it out of there. I really manhandled that thing, got it situated. Putting the plow on was totally a different thing because, you know, I'm not good at spatial reasoning things. Like, those puzzles, like those, not even puzzles, but things that like you used to have on standardized tests where there's a series of dots and then you have 4 more series of dots that you have to identify which one that one would be if it was flipped over. Like, I could never do those without actually manipulating things. I'm just not good at that. And so that's kind of what this putting the plow on the tractor ended up being, was that type of an exercise. I could see how it had to go on. And that's the other thing. When you buy equipment like this, it was used, it's old, it's from the early 70s. There's a manual, but it's like, it assumes that you know a lot more than you do, or I do. And so it'd say, use the widget thing to put in the snickermadoodle and then adjust the furfulkin. Didn't say it. It might as well have said that because it tells you what to do, but it assumes you know what these things are. And I'm like, I don't know what the farfulkin is. What in the world is the farfulkin? And then you look at the drawings and, you know, the drawings have all these pictures, but nothing's labeled. Long story short, I ended up with some help and got it on, and I can now plow my driveway. So that's a big thing because if I plow, I can get the excess gravel out and scrape the ice and get gravel up for traction. So people will hopefully not kill themselves coming down my driveway right now. But by next winter, I would love to have steps. I've always wanted steps there that never got done. So hopefully by next year, I will be able to put steps in. That is a goal for me for this summer. I would love to be able to do that, but right now, vaguely, I want to start researching how to do that. And potentially a retaining wall on that bank. That may not happen, because that may take a whole lot more energy than I will be able to exert. But at least the steps, I would like the steps in. So. Okay, goals. We're done with goals. Other 10% things, my younger son and I, Chris, we went to go see the third Hobbit movie on Sunday. That was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was sad at the end. I mean, it was kind of heartbreaking in a lot of ways. Yeah, it really was. But it definitely did. They set up for like that first Lord of the Rings movie. You could see how things would set up to go into that, many years later. So it was good. And he actually came over on Saturday and we sat and watched the first two Hobbit movies in preparation for seeing the third one. So that was fun. The serious cold has finally broken a bit. Remember last week I was telling you it was like bitter, bitter cold, 0 degrees, negative wind chills. This week is not quite as bad. It's still cold, but it actually feels like the cold it is instead of colder. So that's a good thing. And like I said, it's supposed to get a little warmer this weekend. So that's also a good thing. I could use a break. And hopefully the snow that's out there, not that there's a lot, but since it froze, we had like this rainy mix on Monday, wintry mix. The snow that was out there now is kind of like a sheet of ice on top. And it's funny because when I take Muffin out, she does not like to have to pee on that. I'm sorry if that's TMI. She'll poop on it, but she doesn't want to pee on the icy snow. And it's like, dog, you've got to go. And I think what she ends up doing is coming in and just finding a corner of my carpet. She's done that a couple of times. Not a corner. She actually, I have a carpet runner in my living room. And she'll go on that. She thinks that's her own personal landing strip for peeing, I guess. And then I'm constantly cleaning it up. It's a pain in the butt. She was being really, really good about it, actually, until this cold snap. And now, with that icy snow, I've noticed a couple of times she's done that. So that's no fun. So hopefully it'll thaw out and she can go back to her normal bathroom routine outside. Still going to the gym. Went 3 times last week, which was good. This week went yesterday. Planning to go today. Hopefully again Friday. The only problem is last week I apparently pulled an abdominal muscle. Like I didn't even think it was possible. Like when you first start going to the gym and you're doing crunch kind of things, yeah, your abdominal muscles hurt because you haven't used them in a while. But I've never heard of actually pulling an abdominal muscle. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, I have a hernia because it hurts so, so badly. Not that I even know if a hernia hurts badly. But after doing some research online, I don't believe it's a hernia because it's not in the right place. Hernias seem to happen like down the midsection of your abdomen if you get them. And this is over on the side. At first I thought maybe I blew out an ovary. Obviously, I didn't do that either. But it sounds like you can tear, like you have abdominal muscles that come down your sides and they attach to your pelvic bones. And apparently that's a really common place that you can tear them, is where they attach. And I think that must be what I did. And doing crunch kind of things is one of the most common ways of doing that from what I read. And there's this one machine at the gym that you sit on and you put your legs, like your ankles, underneath this one bar, and then you're holding these other bars and you crunch together. And it really works your abs out. So I did that the first day last week and ouch, And then the second day I did it again, and I was already really, really sore from the first time. I think I started with too much weight. Even though I could do it, I think I should have been doing it with lighter weights. Live and learn. So I did it the second day, and I think that's probably when I damaged things because I was already hurting. By Friday, I couldn't even do it. I couldn't even do one. It hurt way too badly. And so then yesterday when we were there, I tried again and I couldn't. And I went in the one room and I laid flat and was trying to do some ab kind of things just that way. And even that way hurt. And then I was going to do push-ups. I could not even hold a push-up stance because it hurt too bad to do that with my. So I decided it would be best to not do anything that made that hurt. Came home, did the research, figured out what it was. And it sounds like basically rest is the only way to heal that. So I'm going to try to just not use machines that overly exert that area. I mean, pretty much everything, because you're using your core muscles, when you're doing almost anything. But things that are specifically targeting that area, I'm going to leave alone for a couple of weeks and really hope that that heals up quickly. It's sort of annoying because I used to be really good with my abs. When I was kickboxing, I used those muscles all the time. And so now I'm just very annoyed. I feel like my body is revolting on me. So, which is my own fault because I just haven't used those muscles much. So anyway, it's funny because that actually kind of reminded me of this thing I was reading on Facebook not too long ago. It was I think it was called 10 Life Lessons to Learn in Your 30s. I'm not sure why I clicked on it because I haven't been in my 30s in a really long time, but I think I clicked on it mainly because I wanted to see if I indeed did learn them in my 30s. And it turns out that I didn't. Most of them I think I have learned in my 40s, which is a little late, but I guess better late than never. And some of them I think I'm still learning. I'll try to link to it in the show notes. I apologize too. I did not get show notes up for last week's episode. I just ran out of time. Sorry. I will try this week though. So anyway, life lessons. It's never too late to learn things. Better to learn them late and employ them than never learn them at all and continue to make mistakes. The other thing I saw on Facebook lately that made me laugh, and I think I've seen similar things before, was just a picture of a sign outside someplace. And it said, things always happen for a reason. Sometimes the reason is you're stupid and you make bad decisions. Which is a little harsh, but it's true, right? Sometimes we just act stupid and we make really bad judgment calls in life. So you learn from them, hopefully, and don't repeat them. All right, I'm going to pause here because I have all of the stuff I want to bring in to show you that's going to be in the shop update on Friday, and that will be Friday the 16th at 3 p.m. Eastern. So just hang on and I will be right back. If you're not sticking around for the shop news segment, that's fine. I'll see you next week. And if you are, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. This is the shop news segment of the show. First, I wanted to mention about the first quarter thread, which, by the way, the Fiber Nymph Dye Works finished object fourth quarter thread that I drew through for last week. I still have not heard from the winner of that either, which was Notable Needle. So, Notable Needle, if you are watching, please PM me so I can hook you up with your $25 gift certificate for the shop. Okay, the first quarter thread is open for this year, and I had somebody ask, I'm sorry, I just need to get rid of this tickle. I had somebody ask if the projects have to be started and finished in the first quarter, and for this one, no. It just as long as it's finished in the first quarter, that's all that matters. It can have been started a long time ago. But it does have to be made out of either Fiber Nymph Dye Works yarn or fiber that you spun in the yarn and then knit the yarn. That's the only really big requirement. That, and it has to be finished in January, February, or March of this year. Okay, shop update. The shop update this week will be on January 16th, which is Friday, at 3 p.m. Eastern. And I actually have more than I thought I was going to have for this update, so that's kind of exciting. And I have some new colorways also. Yes, I do have some new colorways. I'm thinking, do I have colorways or colorway? But I do have more than one. Okay, first of all, there will be, I'm going to try to do this orderly. One skein of a passel of purples on Bounce. I had to do a special order for that, and this is the second one of that. So there will be one of those. There will be 2 skeins of Favorite Flannel Jammies on Bounce. There will be 2 skeins of Fruit Loops on Bounce. This is one of the colors, I keep waiting for people to get tired of this because I've been dyeing it forever, but whenever I put up those threads in both the 90% Knitting group and the Fiber Nymph Dye Works group about what do you want to see in the shop, I'm still getting feedback that people still want Fruit Loops, so I'll keep dyeing it. I love it. Anyway, there'll be 2 of those, and then I decided I wanted to try something different with Fruit Loops. And so this is a new colorway. And I'm going to show it to you next to Fruit Loops. Okay, so here's Fruit Loops. This is Fruit Loops that has been over-dyed in various, actually no, I'm sorry, it has not been over-dyed. I modified the colors of Fruit Loops with various grays and then dyed it. So it's not an over-dye. It kind of looks like it could be, but it's not, I'm sorry. But it's the same colors, just made darker. So it's kind of like the darker side of Fruit Loops. I'm calling it Cereal Killer, but spelling cereal C-E-A-R, cereal with a C, not like S. I can't spell today. Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's a play on words, people. So you've got Fruit Loops, and then you've got the darker version of Fruit Loops, which is called Serial Killer with a C. So there will be 2 skeins of that in the shop as well as a new colorway. Another new colorway, and I have to credit this idea to Wendy from the Knit One Heart 2 podcast, because I was watching, I think it was their last episode. Maybe it was the one before. I can't remember if they put out another one since then. But Wendy was talking about some yarn, and she kept accidentally referring to it as Sad Panda, and that wasn't the correct name. And then she said, somebody should come out with a yarn called Sad Panda. And it was so funny when she said that, because I've actually thought about doing a yarn called Sad Panda before, because Sad Panda is something that Emma and I say to ourselves. It's a reference that we use. And I just never did it. And when she said that, I thought, I've got to do that. So I have dyed up a yarn called Sad Panda. And this is going to have 3 stripes. There will be the black stripe and the white stripe representing the panda. And this panda is 3 shades of blue, because the middle stripe, which will be in between, it'll go black, blue, white, blue, black, blue, white, blue. And they're all equal size stripes, I'm pretty sure. Yes. The blue is actually a variegated stripe, so there will be 3 different blues in the blue stripe. It will not be the usual semi-solid. It'll actually be a variegated stripe. So I did this on Bounce, and I did it on Bedazzled. So there will be 2 skeins of each, potentially. I think I'm going to actually ask Wendy if she wants to put dibs down on one, since it was her idea. And if she doesn't, that's fine. I'll just put them both in the shop, but I feel like I should ask her if she wants one, since she mentioned it. So I don't even know if she'd want it. But that's where the idea came from, and I like it. I'm really loving doing the variegated stripes. I haven't done them a lot. The 2 stripes in Gnome Place Like Home, the green stripe and the brown stripe, they're variegated stripes. And I think I'm going to start doing some more of those kind of yarns, because I really like the effect. I need to knit up some samples of them to really be able to show you, but I don't know. I love the effect, the idea of the effect anyway. So those are all on Bounce and the one on Bedazzled. So basically those are fingering weight. Moving on, I did some DK striping this week. So there will be 2 skeins of each of these. We've got Forest Floor, Shadowlands, Rockabilly Bride, Dark Fire, Beachcomber, Hot Time Summer in the City. I love doing these bright colors on heavier weight yarns, because I think it's so much fun to knit bright colored winter things. I just do. I don't know why. I do. I would love a hat out of this, or mittens or mitts or something. I think it would be so much fun. Snips and Snails. This is still the DK weight. Highlighters. And this is also favorite flannel jammies in the DK weight self-striping. So lots of DK weight self-striping. I also did some semi-solids in DK weight. That was another thing people were mentioning to me in answer to my question, what do you want to see in the shop, is more semi-solids, particularly on heavier weight yarns. So I have 6 colors of semi-solids this week. I'm going to do more, and these are on DK. I've done 3 of them are newer semi-solid colors for me. I had them in the shop before. I dyed them for Indie Knit and Spin, and they sold really well, both on worsted and fingering. So I'm going to be doing these more, along with, you know, the old favorites that people like. But there is Fuchsia, Lime Green, and Pickle Juice, which Pickle Juice is kind of a chartreusey kind of color, but every time I use this color dye, and I look at it, it just reminds me of kind of that bright yellow-green juice that is in a pickle jar. I don't know why. So there's those 3. There will be 2 skeins of each of those, and then there will be 2 skeins of Peacock Blue, of Violet, and of Silver Gray. So, and the violet is one of my favorites because as a semi-solid, it breaks. And so you get these areas that are kind of a broken bluish purple. It's just a really cool effect when it knits up. So it won't be purple the whole way through. It'll have those areas of shaded bluish purple. So it's a lot of fun. Okay, so that's all of the DK. I have one skein of worsted in the DoubleTree self-striping. I'll probably be putting up worsted self-striping in the next episode, the next update. But I had this one left over as a from a special order that I sent out this week, so I wanted to just throw it up there in case anybody wants it. I have some. Oh, I have 2 new Inversibles color combinations for you this week that I've been thinking about doing, and I finally did them. I have to say, though, I don't remember if it was all on the same day or maybe they were separate days of dyeing, but for whatever reason, it was a red fleck kind of day. So this color combination, which is black and flamingo, yard flamingo pink, I love it. It's sort of the colors of Good and Plenty without the white. The pink, however, does have some red flecking in it, which this pink hardly ever does that. I don't know why it did it this time, but it did. So these will be discounted a little bit, but there are going to be 2 sets of these in the shop. And then the other one I absolutely adore. It's orange and lime green. And at first I was afraid it was going to look too Halloween-y, but it doesn't at all. It actually reminds me of carrots or of a spring garden. And I already have an idea for doing like a more multiple striped colorway using these 2 colors along with some others that you'll probably see coming up in the next month or 2. But these are, I just love them together. So there will be a couple sets of the orange and lime green. And then in Sunshine, which is my light fingering weight, which has 490 yards. So it's a larger skein of 3-ply superwash merino, no nylon in it. It's great for shawls. I actually did the, okay, so remember I told you the blue stripe in Sad Panda is a variegated stripe. I loved how it worked up, so I actually did just 2 skeins of just that blue combination. And I'm using a different technique for this variegated than I usually use for my variegateds. And it's really interesting. It kind of makes the colors, they blend together more subtly. Like they integrate a little bit better. I'm not probably explaining this all that well. There just aren't hard breaks in the variegated. Anyway, I love these blues. I have not actually come up with a name for this blue combination yet. So when I list it in the shop, obviously it'll have a name by then. Right now, it is unnamed, but it is the same blue combination that is in Sad Panda's blue stripe. And I love it. I love having this kind of this is my Caribbean blue color. It mixes in there. And so you also, using this technique, like you have the individual colors, but the areas where they blend, it kind of creates totally new colors too, in a different way than any of my other techniques do. So I really love how it turned out. So there will be 2 skeins of this. There will be 2 skeins of this colorway, which I've done before, but not for a really, really long time. And this is Petra. And I used that same technique on here. So I like how it blended better than the way it used to blend when I was using the other technique I used to use to make this colorway. The blends are just so much nicer, I think. So, and these colors really, I'm trying to find, it may have been in the other skein that it was more prevalent, but there was like this really yummy, muted pumpkin-y color, which it just may not be visible right here the way it is now, but it's in there and I love it. So this is Petra. So there's 2 skeins of that. And then there are 2 skeins of Kiss Me Like You Mean It, which was one of my Valentine's Day colorways that I created a couple years ago. This is another one that there's some pretty decent red flecking going on. Now, the fact that this is a completely red colorway mitigates the effects of that. So when you knit it up, you're probably not going to notice it much. and it's actually sort of a cool effect in this yarn. However, it's not something that I can repeat on purpose, so I will be discounting this as well. It only did it in this. It did not do it, because I did it up on Bedazzled as well. It didn't do it in Bedazzled. It was a different batch of dye by that point. So this didn't do it. The other one did. But there will be 2 of each of those. Okay, let me... I've got to readjust now because I need to get a different bin up here. These are all of the things I specifically dyed for this update this week. Now, having been the end of the year, hold on, I need to adjust, but I'm going to keep talking. Having been the end of the year, and I think I was telling you I was kind of, you know, going through stuff and organizing and seeing what I had and this and that, I found a lot of yarn that was dyed and then just never used, never sold, because it had some sort of strange anomaly or something was not quite right with it. It may have been something that I was dyeing up for like a wholesale order and I couldn't use it, or I don't know, one thing or special order or whatever. A lot of times if I'm pressed for time and I have those things and I know they're not going to be usable for what I was originally dyeing for, I just set them aside. They don't even get reskeined right away. They're just kind of set aside in a pile for when I've got some extra time and I can say to one of my people who comes house, hey, reskein those. So that's what happened over the last couple of weeks. I've got a bunch of things like that, that just, there was some sort of imperfection in most of these. Now, some of these there's not, and I'll let you know, and there was a totally different reason why I couldn't use it. But for the most part, these are things that just didn't quite work out. So, there's actually nothing wrong with these 2 skeins. This is 1/2 of the turquoise blue and purple inversibles set. There was an issue with the corresponding set. So I ended up with these 2 just being extra. So I'm selling these. They're just one of a kinds, 2 stripers. Obviously the wider stripe will be the turquoise blue. The narrow stripe will be the purple, but there's nothing wrong with them. So there's those. These are the corresponding sets. They are short. These skeins are about 75 grams instead of 100 grams, hence the issue. So there's nothing wrong with the colors, no flecking, no issues. They're just short skeins, and I will price them down accordingly. And obviously these have the wider purple and narrow turquoise blue. These are, again, these were for an inversible set. I cannot remember what happened to the coordinating set. It had some sort of issue or something. I don't remember at this point. However, the wide pink, the wide fuchsia, and narrow purple, again, nothing wrong with them. They're just full skeins of that half of the inversible set, selling them that way. Let's see. There are, okay. These are almost all inversibles gone wrong, actually. That's the downside to doing inversibles. If something goes wrong with one set, like, I'm messed up with the other set too, and it's sort of a headache sometimes. This is a color combination that I actually will not do anymore because of the issue I had with this huge batch of it. This was the bright green and dark green set. For whatever reason, it was just not dyeing up consistently that I could have them match up, because they have to match up too. And when I do them in huge lots, like for wholesale orders, there sometimes tends to be a bit of variation. These, there was tons of variation. So these are just simply the wide stripe of bright green, the narrow stripe of dark green. Not nearly as much variation as I would have liked. You will be able to see it when you knit it up, but I have 4 skeins of that. And again, nothing wrong with them. I just couldn't use them as the inversibles, so I'm selling them just as one-of-a-kind sock skeins, and you can do with them as you will. Let's see. These also were inversibles gone bad. I believe the blue in these have some dark blue flecking. Yes, they do. So again, these are full skeins. Blue flecking though, so it's the wide orchid lavender color and the narrow blue, robin's egg blue, but the blue has some flecking, so these will be discounted, and they're one of a kinds. And then from that same batch, I ended up with the actual inversibles, and you can see, probably if I can get it to focus, some of the blue flecking in. Are you going to focus for me? There we go. But like you can see, there's blue flecks throughout the light blue. I've got a bunch of these sets of inversibles. If you don't mind the blue flecking, then you're good to go. But I would say it's probably moderate blue flecking. There's more than just a few spots, like I can see them as I'm looking at it now. So these will definitely be discounted in the shop, but I'll put them up there because some people don't mind that. Like, I don't mind knitting with that kind of stuff. I think it kind of looks cool. But anyway, all right. And then lastly, there are, again, these were an inversible set. I can't remember, actually. I don't think there's anything wrong with these. I'm going to have to examine these a little bit better. But this is the silver gray and black stripe combination. Obviously, the silver gray is the bigger stripe. I'm pretty sure there was something just wrong with the other set, which is why it's not here. So these are probably fine. I will double check that before I list them. But there's those. And then lastly, there are 2 skeins of Voodoo on my Heavenly base. And I know the reason why I did not put these in the shop originally was because the purple bleeds blue into the white stripe, which is why I'm probably not going to dye this colorway anymore, because there's no way to make it not do that. I've dyed this colorway a couple times, and that has happened every time I've done it, and I've been able to fix it. I was not able to fix it on this set. So these will be discounted a little bit because of that blue bleed that's into the white. I mean, it looks fine. It's not a problem, but it's not meant to be there. So that will be discounted. So you're getting a little bit of one-of-a-kind discounting stuff, as well as stuff I actually dyed for the shop this week. But I like giving you guys the options, because when I can discount things, it makes it nicer for people who are on budgets and don't want to spend as much, you know. And it gets used. I don't want to see the yarn go to waste. So, okay. Well, that is everything for the shop. I'm going to be working on photographing and putting things up in preview mode today and tomorrow. And that's everything. I think this is going to be a little over an hour, and I hate to go over an hour, so I'm going to call it quits now. But thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.